Amelia brought her new man to the divorce, and the first thing he did was grin at me like he had front-row seats to my funeral. We were standing in the Fulton County Courthouse in downtown Atlanta, the marble floors cold enough to match Amelia's face, when he leaned close and said, "So this the husband she used to cry over?" Then he laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not an awkward laugh. A full, arrogant, chest-out laugh that bounced off the walls and made two clerks look up. Amelia did not stop him. She just folded her arms, shifted her designer bag high on her shoulder, and watched me take the hit. What made it worse was that Amelia knew exactly where to cut me. She had known me since sophomore year at Clark Atlanta University, back when I was a skinny funny dude from Decatur with one good suit, a cheap haircut, and a dream bigger than my bank account. She knew I hated public embarrassment because I grew up watching my father swallow humiliation with silence. So when she brought that man, Terrence, 6'2", shiny smile, gold watch, cologne strong enough to announce bad decisions before he spoke, she was not confused. She was sending a message. I was supposed to look broken. I was supposed to look small. I wish I could say I stood there like a movie hero, unbothered and smooth. But the truth is my chest felt hollow. My lawyer, Denise Parker, whispered for me to keep walking, but my legs stayed planted. Terrence smirked and straightened his tie like he had won some championship ring. Amelia glanced at him, then at me, and said, "Paul, let's just get this over with." The words were colder than any insult. This was a woman who once kissed my forehead in Piedmont Park and told me my laugh made her feel safe. Now she looked at me like I was expired milk in her fridge. The brutal part was not even the laugh. It was what came after. When we sat down outside courtroom 4B to wait for the clerk, Terrence dropped into the seat beside Amelia, spread his knees like he paid taxes on the whole hallway, and said, loud enough for everybody to hear, "Crazy how some men lose a good woman and still show up empty-handed." He looked at my plain navy suit and my old leather folder. Then Amelia, my Amelia, the woman who used to split Waffle House hash browns with me at midnight, let out a tiny laugh through her nose. It was small. It still cut deepest. You do not understand a heartbreak like that unless you have loved somebody in pieces and in full. Amelia and I built our beginning on almost nothing. We had coffee dates at little spots off Edgewood Avenue where the chairs wobbled and the playlists were better than the food. She used to roast me because I wore the same brown boots every winter, and I used to clown her because she could never parallel park without a prayer and 2 retries. Once, in Savannah on a weekend trip, she backed into a trash can so gently the can tipped over like it was fainting. We laughed until we cried. Amelia was beautiful in the kind of way that made room soften. Deep brown skin, honey blonde highlights she changed every other season, big eyes that could look innocent even when she was absolutely plotting nonsense. She loved lemon pound cake, old school R&B, and reality shows where rich women insulted each other in kitchens bigger than our apartment. I loved the way she sang wrong lyrics with confidence. She turned "Ain't No Mountain High Enough" into a whole different federal crime one Sunday morning while frying catfish. I laughed so hard I dropped orange juice on the floor, and she blamed me for making the kitchen unsafe for black love. Back then, we were a team. We got married at 28 in a small ceremony in New Orleans because Amelia said Atlanta weddings cost too much and had too many fake cousins. We danced second line through the French Quarter under string lights and brass horns, and I remember thinking I had somehow cheated life. She wore white satin, my mother cried through 3 tissues, and my boy from college kept yelling, "Paul really did it," like I had won a title. We honeymooned in Miami Beach, ate overpriced shrimp, and promised each other we would always choose honesty over pride. Turns out promises sound strongest before money gets involved. The money changed slow, then all at once. I started a commercial cleaning company with 1 borrowed floor buffer and a used Ford Transit van. Amelia worked in medical billing and kept our books cleaner than church shoes. For years we hustled together. I cleaned offices at night and courted contract by day. Amelia answered phones, sent invoices, charmed clients, and reminded me to sleep. When the company finally took off, we moved to a bigger house in Buckhead with white columns Amelia loved and a kitchen island so long my grandmother said, "Baby, this ain't a kitchen, this is an airport terminal." We laughed, but success made new appetites grow. Amelia's appetite was not just for comfort. It became performance. She wanted the right circles, the right brunches, the right couples trips, The right picture angles, the right label stitched inside her clothes so strangers would know she was no longer the girl from East Point catching martyr with wet hair and cheap flats. I tried to keep up, but I was still the same Paul who valued peace over flexing. I would rather grill in the backyard with Frankie Beverly playing than spend $4,000 on a weekend in Scottsdale to take photos near a pool. Amelia called me old-minded. I called myself tired. That was around when Terrence appeared, slick as a bad sermon. Amelia met him at some luxury networking mixer at a rooftop lounge in Midtown. She described him at first like a joke. "You would hate him," she told me, taking off her earrings in the bathroom mirror. "He says things like, energy is currency, and wears loafers without socks in November." I laughed and said he sounded like a motivational speaker who owed child support. She laughed too hard, which should have told me something. After that, his name kept popping up. Terrence recommended restaurants. Terrence knew investors. Terrence had a boat. Terrence was just funny. The first real crack came at a charity gala in downtown Atlanta. Amelia wore a silver dress that made every head turn, and I wore a tux I hated because bow ties make me feel like a waiter at a rich funeral. We were near the bar when I saw Terrence put his hand on the small of Amelia's back. It was quick, too familiar for a just friend's gesture, too practiced for a mistake. Amelia stepped away when she saw me looking, but not before Terrence smiled at me like we were sharing a private joke. That night I asked Amelia straight up. She called me insecure and slept in the guest room. Maybe I should have left then, but love has a stupid amount of patience when it is mixed with history. I kept trying. I booked us a long weekend in Charleston, rented a little place with a porch, and planned dinners at cozy restaurants where candles did all the heavy lifting. For one evening, it almost worked. We walked along Rainbow Row holding hands, and Amelia laughed when a carriage horse sneezed so loudly she jumped into my chest. We kissed under a street lamp, and for a moment I saw my wife again. Then her phone lit up at dinner. She looked at the screen, smiled without meaning to, and everything changed. When I finally found the messages, it was not dramatic at first. No movie soundtrack. No shattered glass. I was looking for a tax file on our shared laptop in my home office when a sync message preview slid across the screen. "Terrence, can't stop thinking about that blue dress." I felt my whole body go still. Not angry first. Cold first. Then I scrolled because pain is nosy. Hotel confirmations. Late-night jokes about me falling asleep during movies. A voice note where Amelia laughed and said, "Paul's a good man, but good gets boring." That sentence aged me. I think my beard grew another year right there. When I confronted her, Amelia did not deny it long. We stood in our kitchen, the giant airport terminal island between us, while rain slapped the windows like it wanted front row seats too. She cried for maybe 60 seconds, then switched into something sharper. She said she had outgrown me, said I had become predictable, said Terrence made her feel seen. I almost laughed because I had spent 10 years seeing everything about her, including the ugly part she hid from everybody else. I had seen her panic attacks, her debt, her fear of failing, the scar on her thigh she once cried over. Now suddenly I was invisible because I chose stability over spectacle. The divorce turned ugly fast. Amelia wanted the house, the car, an inflated share of the business, and enough monthly support to make me feel her absence as a bill. Terrence, meanwhile, started showing up around the edges of everything, like a roach bold enough to walk through daylight. He posted pictures from places Amelia and I used to visit. He wore my favorite style of hats even though they did not fit his head shape. Once he uploaded a photo grilling in my old backyard captioned, "Some men build it. Real men enjoy it." My cousin Jerome called me ready to drive over there immediately. I told him no. So by the time we reached the courthouse, I was not just grieving a marriage. I was staring at two people who had turned my pain into entertainment. Inside, Amelia kept her eyes on her phone while Denise handled the paperwork. Terrence waited outside because he was not legally needed, but he made sure he stayed visible through the glass doors. Every time I looked up, there he was, laughing into his phone like the day belonged to him. Denise leaned toward me and quietly said, "Paul, sign what we agreed to and breathe." I did. My signature looked steadier than I felt. Sometimes dignity is just refusing to perform your collapse. After the hearing ended, Amelia walked out first. Terrence wrapped an arm around her shoulders like he had purchased the rights to my old life. Then he stepped toward me one last time and said, "Appreciate you keeping her warm till a real man arrived." Amelia flinched, but she still did not correct him. That was the final lesson. Silence can be betrayal too. I looked at both of them, memorized their smiles, and said the only thing I trusted myself to say: "Take care of each other." Terence laughed again, like I was weak. Denise watched them leave, then turned to me and said, "You planning something?" I answered, "No, I'm planning peace." Peace did not come that week. It came disguised as paperwork 2 Fridays later. My company controller, Ms. Loretta, a 60-year-old numbers assassin from South DeKalb with reading glasses sharp enough to cut lies, walked into my office holding a stack of printouts. "Baby," she said, "your ex-wife being creative." Creative was Loretta language for criminally foolish. While Amelia managed our books years earlier, she had quietly shifted funds, misclassified personal spending, and routed certain consulting payments through an LLC Terence controlled. Luxury trips, designer purchases, a lease on a Mercedes under shell business. They had not just betrayed me romantically. They had been stealing while calling me boring. That discovery changed everything because one thing about Paul Robinson: hurt me, I might forgive too long. Rob me, and now you have invited the grown men to the meeting. Denise brought in a forensic accountant from Houston named Malcolm Price, a soft-spoken genius with locks, cufflinks, and the smile of somebody who enjoys ruining fraudulent people from a respectful distance. Malcolm traced every dollar like a bloodhound in a 3-piece suit. Within a week, he had a timeline so clean even my anger sat up straight. Terence's consulting firm was smoke. Amelia's signatures were everywhere. Their little victory parade outside that courthouse began to look extremely temporary. Still, life is not all darkness, and God will send you comedy right when your spirit needs oxygen. Around that time, my mother moved in for 3 weeks because no divorced black man should be left alone with takeout and bad thoughts. Mama came armed with church fans, old gossip, and enough frozen casseroles to survive a recession. She would watch me mope on the couch, click her tongue, and say, "Paul, stop looking like a him nobody requested." One night she caught me rereading old texts from Amelia and snatched the phone right out my hand. "Baby," she said, "the trash already left. Why are you sniffing the can?" Then came Nia, not as some magic replacement, not as fantasy, but as a reminder that life had not closed all its windows. Nia was a black-owned bookstore manager in Virginia Highland who wore big hoop earrings and had the kind of laugh that made strangers join in before they even heard the joke. We met because I reached for the same James Baldwin collection she was restocking. She looked at my healing heart face and said, "You either recently got divorced or your barber pushed your hairline back in self-defense." I laughed for real, maybe for the first time in months. "Divorce?" I said. "Damn," she replied. "I was hoping it was a barber." Nia and I started slow. Coffee, then tacos, then a long walk on the belt line where she told me she did not trust men who described themselves as alpha, and I told her I did not trust brunch spots with chandeliers but no seasoning. She laughed so hard she almost dropped her iced tea. There was no pressure, just warmth. She listened without poking at wounds, and when I told her I was not fully ready, she nodded like a grown woman with her own peace to protect. "Take your time," she said. "I like people better when they've unpacked their boxes." That line stayed with me. Meanwhile, Amelia's new life started wobbling. Through mutual friends and documents alike, the truth leaked out beautifully. Terence had leveraged Amelia hard. He liked luxury the way mosquitoes like ankles, boldly and often. Once the diverted funds stopped and the accountant started circling, his affection developed a limp. Amelia called me one Tuesday evening from an unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. When I answered, her voice sounded thin. "Paul, I need to talk." Funny how urgent honesty becomes when the bill arrives. I told her to send anything important through Denise and hung up before nostalgia could put on shoes. My pulse raced, but my boundaries held. The actual revenge was not a scream, a fight, or some reckless public humiliation. It was cleaner, colder, permanent. Denise filed civil claims, provided a forensic package to the right agencies, and petitioned the court to reopen financial determinations based on fraud. Amelia's request for a larger settlement vanished like steam. Her claim to a share of my company collapsed because the books proved misconduct. The Mercedes lease tied to the Shell business became evidence. Terrence's little consulting brand lost its banking relationship. Their country club friends, the same folks who loved rooftop pictures and fake captions about elevation, suddenly stopped answering. Money has a way of making shallow circles evaporate. But life, being dramatic, still had one last stage for us. 3 months after the courthouse scene, I attended a Black Entrepreneurs Alliance event at a hotel in downtown Chicago to speak on scaling service businesses. I was backstage straightening my notes when I saw Amelia across the ballroom. No Terrence, no gold glow, no smug smile nearby. She looked beautiful still, but tired in the way worry sits on a face when sleep cannot out-negotiate regret. She approached carefully, like I might shatter or explode. Instead, I stood there calm in a tailored charcoal suit, debt-free, scandal-free, and respected by a room full of people she once said would never notice me. Amelia asked if we could talk privately. We stepped into an empty corridor near a bank of windows overlooking the Chicago River, and for a second it reminded me of the day we first dreamed big together. Then she started crying. Not pretty TV tears. Real crying. Terrence had left after the accounts froze. Apparently, real men disappear fast when subpoenas arrive. She said she had been stupid, ashamed, manipulated, selfish. She said she missed my steadiness, my humor, the way I built things instead of performing them. Then she said the sentence she must have rehearsed all week. Paul, I think I made the worst mistake of my life. I believed her. That was a brutal part for her. I believed her, and it changed nothing. I did not yell. I did not insult her back. I did not savor the sight for too long, though I would be lying if I said it gave me no satisfaction. I simply told the truth. Amelia, when I needed mercy, you brought an audience. She covered her mouth and cried harder. I kept going, steady as church drums. You did not just leave. You laughed while I bled. Then you helped a man disrespect me and steal from the life we built. Every word landed soft, which made it hit harder. She whispered, Can you ever forgive me? I looked out at the river, then back at the woman I had once planned to grow old with. I already did, I said. Her shoulders lifted with hope too soon. Then I finished. But forgiveness is not reunion. You do not get access to me because you finally understand my value. That broke her more than anger could have. Some wounds close so completely they become doors that never reopen. I told her I hoped she healed, faced what she had done, and built a life honest enough to let her sleep. Then I walked back into that ballroom and delivered my speech to applause. After the event, Nia met me in the hotel lounge because she had flown in that morning to surprise me. She was wearing a deep green dress and that same mischievous smile that always looked like she had one joke loaded for emergencies. You look like closure in dress shoes, she said after one glance at my face. I laughed, kissed her forehead, and told her she talked too much for somebody who stole my fries at lunch. Correction, she said, linking her arm through mine. I saved you from overeating and sorrow. We spent the night walking along the river, talking about books, family, and futures that did not need revenge to feel victorious. So when people ask what happened after she brought her new man to the divorce, I tell them this. The worst revenge is not violence, noise, or humiliation. It is building a life so solid that the people who mocked your pain are forced to watch you become unshakable without them. Amelia lost a husband, a reputation, and the safety of being truly loved. Terrence lost his fake empire. I lost illusions, which turned out to be a fair trade. I gained peace, discernment, laughter again, and a woman who values character over spectacle. Moral of the story, never confuse kindness for weakness, and never laugh at a faithful heart. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.